Welcome, everyone. Get ready for a mind-blowing story that will leave you questioning everything. If you love shocking twists, intense mysteries, and unexpected truths, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more thrilling content your way. Let's dive in. The world watched in eerie anticipation as Dr. Olivia Carter was led into the grand courtroom of the Global Justice Council. Cameras flashed, journalists whispered, and millions tuned in to live broadcasts, desperate to uncover the truth behind the most controversial trial in modern history. Olivia, once revered as a medical prodigy who had saved thousands of lives, now stood accused of crimes against humanity. The prosecution painted her as a rogue scientist, a woman who had crossed the line between medical advancement and forbidden experimentation. But the real horror wasn't just in the charges, it was in the unknown. In the weeks leading up to the trial, bizarre incidents began to unfold. People who had worked with Olivia reported haunting visions, unexplained whispers, and an overwhelming sense of dread whenever they spoke her name. Key witnesses disappeared, evidence files became corrupted, and strange glitches disrupted the court's security footage. Some claimed it was just paranoia, but others whispered of something far darker lurking beneath the surface. Despite the chaos surrounding her, Olivia remained unnervingly calm. Dressed in a flawless navy blue suit, she walked with purpose, her piercing eyes scanning the room as if she could see something no one else could. Then, she uttered a chilling warning. There are things beyond human comprehension. Things you were never meant to see. A hush fell over the courtroom. Had they just put something far more dangerous than a mere criminal on trial? The courtroom was tense, filled with an unsettling energy that made even the most seasoned legal experts uneasy. As the prosecution took the floor, Assistant Attorney General Victor Langley wasted no time delivering his accusations. His voice was sharp, authoritative, yet there was an underlying unease, as if even he wasn't fully convinced that Dr. Olivia Carter was just an ordinary defendant. Dr. Carter, Langley began, his eyes locked onto hers, you are accused of tampering with human life in ways that defy ethical and scientific boundaries. The evidence will show that patients under your care did not just recover, they changed. A murmur spread through the courtroom. The phrase "they changed" lingered in the air like a bad omen. Then came the first piece of evidence, a hospital security recording. It was supposed to show Olivia entering the operating room with a terminal patient. But as the footage played, the screen glitched violently, distorting the figures. The patient's silhouette twitched unnaturally, their body moving in ways no human should. The lights flickered. A sudden cold gust swept through the room. One of the jury members gasped, clutching his head as if he heard something no one else could. Olivia sat still, unbothered. She simply watched as the courtroom unraveled, a small, knowing smile forming at the corners of her lips. Then she whispered, just loud enough for the microphone to catch. You shouldn't have brought them here. The judge slammed the gavel. But it was too late, something had already begun. The courtroom had barely recovered from the unnerving security footage when the next bombshell dropped. A former research associate, Dr. Elias Montgomery, was called to the stand. His hands trembled as he adjusted his glasses, his face pale as if he had seen a ghost. I worked with Dr. Carter, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. At first, it was groundbreaking. She was saving people, bringing them back from the brink of death. But then things started to go wrong. The audience leaned in, holding their breath. They weren't the same after, he continued. The ones she saved, they would wake up, whispering things in languages they had never spoken. They knew things. Impossible things. Some of them. He paused, his fingers twitching. Some of them would disappear. A gasp rippled through the room. Then, as if the universe itself had been waiting for this moment, an alert rang through the courtroom's security system. A live news feed appeared on the monitors, interrupting the trial. A hospital in Tokyo had just reported an impossible event. One of Olivia's former patients, declared dead 2 years ago, had resurfaced. Alive. But different. The room erupted into chaos. Olivia Carter, silent until now, finally let out a slow, deliberate sigh. She turned to the jury, her eyes dark, almost hollow. I told you, she murmured, her voice eerily calm. You weren't ready for the truth. Somewhere in the distance, a light bulb shattered. The air in the courtroom had turned heavy, suffocating, as if the very walls were pressing in. The monitors flickered, showing distorted images of the patient from Tokyo, his eyes sunken, his veins blackened, his movements unnatural. The reporters in the gallery scrambled to capture the moment, but their cameras glitched, screens filling with static. Then came the final proof. A sealed government file was placed before the judge, one that had been classified for over a decade. With hesitant fingers, she flipped through the pages, her face slowly draining of color. She stopped at a photograph. The image was faded, but clear enough, a young Olivia Carter, standing over a man who should have been dead. But he wasn't. He was looking directly into the camera. Smiling. A chilling realization settled over the room. Olivia Carter hadn't just been studying life and death, she had crossed the threshold between them. A murmur of disbelief spread. One juror collapsed, whispering prayers under his breath. The lead prosecutor dropped his pen, hands shaking. Olivia, still calm, slowly rose to her feet. Her voice was soft, almost sympathetic. "You thought you were judging me," she said, tilting her head. "But I was never the one on trial." The lights cut out. For 3 agonizing seconds, the courtroom was swallowed in pitch-black darkness. Then, just as suddenly, the lights flickered back. Olivia Carter was gone. Panic erupted the moment the lights flickered back on. Dr. Olivia Carter's seat was empty, no handcuffs, no trace of escape, just an unsettling silence hanging over the courtroom like a dark cloud. Security officers rushed in, barking orders, but there was nowhere for her to go. She had vanished. The judge, once composed, now gripped the edges of her bench, her knuckles white. "Lock down the building," she ordered, but it was too late. Then, the screens flickered again. The news feed from Tokyo returned, but something had changed. The patient, the one declared dead 2 years ago, was now staring directly into the camera, his mouth moving. But there was no sound. The technicians scrambled, amplifying the audio. Then, a whisper. A single, distorted voice, but layered, as if 100 voices were speaking at once. "She is not gone." The feed cut to black. Inside the courtroom, the prosecution team looked pale and disoriented. A juror collapsed, gasping for air. One of the bailiffs, a hardened ex-military man, dropped his gun and whispered, "She's still here." Then, from somewhere unseen, a breathy chuckle echoed through the room. Not from the speakers. Not from any human mouth. "I told you," the voice murmured, eerily familiar. "You were never ready." A cold wind swept through the room, and the gavel slipped from the judge's trembling hand, hitting the floor with a deafening crack.